I'm probably preaching to the choir this morning when I say this, but this is the greatest book ever written. And I want to remind us of just, I talked about it a few months ago, but bear with me. And I want to remind everyone just how special that this book is. This is the best-selling book and most translated book in the whole world. 5 billion copies are sold, and it's still going. The United States alone, over $1 billion in sales every year. Also, there's 100 million Bibles printed and distributed in many different languages every year. Digitally, electronically. That's what you want to say.
That's right, electronic. Yeah.
You would think in this age it would slow it down, but actually it doesn't. Because you can see people during service on their phones. Yeah. But they're following. I actually have one on mine, and I did bring it where it actually, when I get tired of reading, it will read it to me. So I don't have to slow down. So even in this digital age, there's 10 million downloads recorded this year. That makes up 28% of all the global distribution that is done. And I bring that up to let each of us remember that the Bible reflects different styles and it reflects different purposes. Okay, and let's not forget that, because this is going to come into play this Sunday and next Sunday as well. The different purposes that it has, it actually has books of law, it has history, it has wisdom, it has prophecy, it has biography, it has letters, and it has visions. All of these are filled within these pages that are here. Now, the Old Testament is divided into Old Testament and New Testament. That's why I say I'm preaching to the choir. These things I know y'all know already, but please bear with me. The Old Testament is, we have the books of law, which is the Pentateuch, which is the foundational books out of creation, early history, God's covenant with Israel. There's Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. Then we have books of history. They tell of Israel's journey, their conquest, their monarchy, their exile, their return. That's Joshua through Esther. That's 12 books. Okay, then we have wisdom and poetry. And this one I want to pay attention to. We have wisdom and poetry. These explore human emotions and divine wisdom. And these are Job, Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, and Songs of Solomon. Then we have the major prophets, which are the longer prophecy writings, a message of judgment, messages of hope. That's Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, and Daniel. Then we have the minor prophets, which are shorter prophet books, but they still packed with a divine message. That's Hosea through Malachi, and that's 12 books. Then we have the New Testament. There are stories of Jesus and the early church, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and Acts. Then we have Paul's epistles. Letters from Paul to the churches and individuals, which is rich in guidance and theology. That's Romans through Philemon, and that's 13 books. Then we have the general epistles. That's letters from the other apostles addressing a broader audience. Hebrews, James, 1st and 2nd Peter, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd John, and Jude. Then we have the apocalyptic. We have the prophecies and Christ's return, and that's in Revelations. Now, the reason I bring all of that up, there's one that seems to be out of place, doesn't it? When we really think about it in the scheme of things. The book of Job, if we will look back, the book of Job is considered a book of what? Wisdom. And at first we have a hard time wrapping, or at least I did. I want to know why Job is considered a book of wisdom. But when we look into it, and as we study with it, and as we look into it, a certain portion of it today, human suffering and divine judgment is limited to our understanding, isn't it?
Yes.
As humans, we do struggle so much with human suffering. That is one of the main asked questions, why do people suffer? Okay. The other part is divine justice. We are limited in our understanding. And Job goes into great detail about this. And this is where our wisdom comes into play. That's why it's considered a book of wisdom. Another reason that we're going to look at today, one, as I was studying this, it stuck out to me what Satan was trying to do here. Satan will be persistent in what he does.
Yes.
And he will search for the weakest link
That's it.
in the chain that you have. And the weakest link in our chain, we deny it. We laugh about it. And we write it off, or we talk about it as just something that is. And Satan learned to prey on that certain weak link in that chain. So here, I've learned something that I knew, but I didn't know. And you know what I mean by that? I hope y'all do. You ever notice there's something, you know it, but yet you don't know it? You don't defend it? You just kind of leave it out there? And that's what I've noticed through this today. So let's look at James chapter 5. And we're going to get to something that has probably been overlooked, or something I have overlooked for a very long time. I knew it, but I didn't know it. I knew it, but I didn't want to admit it. Let's look at James chapter 5. We'll start in verse 11. As you know, we count as blessed those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and full of mercy. Now, one thing that we need to realize here, in the New Testament, this is the only place that Job is mentioned. He's mentioned in the Old Testament, a whole book about him, right? But in the New Testament, this is the only place that Job is mentioned. And it starts out, verse 11 starts out by saying, those who endure are considered blessed. Not because they're happy at this moment, but because they're walking in God's favor. It's why they are blessed. Endurance here means that you can withstand under the pressure that is being given to you. Not giving in when it gets hard or if you don't understand what's going on. When it don't make sense to you. Okay? And I'm trying to tie this in with the others we had in the past. Now, Job is our blueprint, I guess you could say, for perseverance, right? He's our example. Right. So we're to look at this example. Okay? We're to get a full meaning of what he is trying to tell us and why he is standing out in chapter 11. Okay? So, now, we know that Job is the example, and through him we can see and understand some wisdom from this. Now, Job didn't just suffer. He suffered everything that we will ever suffer. That's right. Okay? For example, wealth. Some of us here may not ever, but I have. I have. There was a point where my profit sharing, I lost everything. I'm talking everything. Okay? So, and I understand where that places someone. Okay? The other thing was health. Some of us wake up every morning with that same health issue, that same struggle every day, don't we? And some of us don't. And some of us may in the future struggle with that health. Okay? Family. Some of us have family problems, and we have separations in families, and we have, different, not maybe so much in our inner family, but maybe in our family as a whole, and we may struggle with that. Also, reputation. You know how bad it would be to have your credibility destroyed, your character destroyed in a community. I've seen it happen to where people had to move. So Job experienced all of these things. Anyone you can think of, he did, but he didn't abandon his faith. He questioned it and he wrestled with it. But he didn't. But see, the key, that's not the key. We all know that. We need to know what Satan was trying to do. We need to find out where Satan was attacking. And when we find out where he's attacking, maybe it will give us wisdom on how we can strengthen ourselves and in our spiritual walk. Now, Satan was permitted by the Lord to deal with Job. This part we all know, that he was permitted to deal with it. But to see, the key is not what he did, but how he did it. You see, we can look all day and we can get some good lessons on what he did. But the key that the wisdom comes from is how did he do it? See, we're talking about the sneakiest, connivingest enemy that you have. How did he do this as a whole? So let's look at the book of James as a whole. Let's turn back to James chapter 5. Well, we're in James chapter 5. Now, if you look at James chapter 5, and if you would look at where verse 7 starts, what's it called? Patience and suffering. So let's look at James. Let's look at it as a whole and see what we're trying to put together here. We'll start in verse 7. Be patient. So we know this part is about what? Patience, right? Be patient. Then, brothers and sisters, until the Lord's coming. So how long is that? To the very end. There's no limit to patience. We limit patience, but with patience, there is no limit, right?
That's right.
We're to be patient. So in other words, patience helps us wait on God's timing. Patience helps us wait on God's answer. Okay? So we have to be patient until the very end. See how the farmer waits for the land to yield its valuable crop, patiently waiting for the autumns and spring rains? You too be patient and stand firm, because the Lord's coming is near. Do not grumble against one another, brothers and sisters, or you will be judged. The judge is standing at the door, brothers and sisters, as an example of patience. As an example of patience. Think about that. In the face of suffering, take the prophets who spoke in the name of the Lord. As you know, we count those who have persevered. You have heard of Job's perseverance, and you have seen what the Lord has brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. Now, when we look at this as a whole, it's plain to see what Satan is trying to do. He's trying to attack Job's patience. Because think about this. Do we not know Satan's entire strategy was to test Job's faith and endurance, right?
That's right.
Now, Job was what? Consider my servant Job. He is what? Upright?
Right.
He's righteous?
That's right, righteous. That's right.
He shuns evil. But Satan says, I am persistent. And if you give me enough time, he'll lose his patience.
That's right. He'll lose it.
And if he loses his patience, he'll react just like that. And you see, that's the weakest link in that chain, isn't it? But see, what we don't realize is what we need to realize today. Faith and endurance and patience are three separate things that go hand in hand. We try to see them all as one, but they're not. They're separate things, separate links that go hand in hand. And we're going to see that as we go along. But Satan he's persistent. And he explains to God multiple times. Let's do this multiple times. That's why he knew that if I can do this long enough time, that his patience will go through. So let's go ahead and turn to the book of Job, first chapter. Job chapter 1, we're going to start in verse 6 through 8. It says, one day the angels come to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, where have you come from? Satan answered the Lord, from roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth in it. The Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There's no one on earth like him. He is blameless, upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Chapter 2. Let's jump over to chapter 2. On another day, the angels come to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before him. And the Lord said to Satan, where have you come from? Satan answered the Lord, from roaming throughout the earth, going back and forth on it. Then the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job? There's no one like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and still maintains his integrity. Though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason. Skin for skin, Satan said. A man will give all that he has for his own life. But now stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bone, and he will surely curse you to the face. Now, the Bible talks a lot about patience, doesn't it?
Right.
You see, patience is the key virtue in Christian life. But it's also the weakest link that we have. If anybody here will be honest this morning, patience is probably our weakest point, isn't it?
Yep. That's right, bro.
We have faith, and we can endure. But how good is our patience? And we think, well, all of that's one. No, it's not. Because we're going to see through Scripture after a while, it's not. It's a separate thing. And if one link is weak, the other two will will fall apart. Look at Romans chapter 8, 25. Romans 8, chapter 8, verse 25. Verse 25. But if we hope, now I'm going to stop right there. Now we know the definition of hope, right? The definition of hope is a positive expectation. You see, as I said before in the past, hope is one of those words that we slander. You know, I hope it rains. No, that depends on faith. My hope is in the Lord. That doesn't depend on faith. That's a positive thing.
That's right.
So hope is a positive expectation. So we can look at it this way. But if we have a positive expectation for what we do not yet have, how do we wait for it? Patiently. See, look what he said. For what we do not yet have, we wait for it patiently. So, hoping, faith, and endurance, how do we do it? Patiently. That's why Job is in the book of James under patience, because that's what was attacked. Ecclesiastes 7, verse 8. It says, the end of the matter is better than its beginning, and patience is better than pride. You see, patience is needed when hoping for something that is unseen. Patience has to play its part in our faith and our endurance. Okay? It has a critical part. We know that, but we don't know it. We know it, but it's the one that we shun to the side. Without patience, frustration takes over. And immediate action takes place. I tell you what, my weak link in the chain in patience. You know how you do that? You give me something with electronics. Something where I have to set something digitally or whatever you want. When you have me fooling with a computer, or you have me fooling with...
It's your piece.
It really tried my patience. And it's my weak link in the chain. And you don't think Satan knows that? Or you think he doesn't? He's been around all these years and he doesn't know?
He knows.
You see, learning to wait on God shapes our spiritual growth. Understanding its importance can lead to a more faithful life. Look at, just to prove my point again, let's look at Job chapter 1. Let's flip back to Job, or if we're not in Job already. I must be full. Job chapter 1, we're going to look at verse 9 through 11. Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied. Have you not put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the works of his hands, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But now stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. These verses, is not meant to focus on Satan directly. It points to Job's patience.
That's right.
Despite immediate suffering. You know what Satan is saying here? Job ain't never had to wait on nothing.
That's right.
He planted the seed, you made it grow.
Preach it, brother.
You wanted him to you wanted to multiply his family, you gave him multiple families.
That's right.
You wanted his integrity to grow, he's an elder sitting at the gate judging.
That's right.
He got 2 old mangy cattle, what happened? You gave him a flock that's placed throughout the whole land. Job has never had to wait on nothing. Job's patience is his weakest link. I guarantee you let me deal with that, and I guarantee you he'll break. I want us to think about that ourselves this morning. Is that your weak link? We may say, well, I got faith and I got endurance, but do you have patience? Satan knows that impatience often leads to poor decisions. And I'm going to give you a prime example of that this morning. The Bible is full of impatient decisions that has caused problems. You don't have to look very far. But you know, one that comes to mind is Sarah, Abraham's wife. Okay? God told him, you're going to have a family. Y'all going to multiply. But through her impatience, she told Abraham, go and lay with my maidservant Hagar and have a child.
Right.
Well, she did. You know how much strife that caused in that family? Do you know it's causing strife today? Ishmael is the father of the Islamic nation. Abraham's offspring falls down to the Christian nation. You know what kind of problems and strife this causes? From what? One impatient decision. Satan knows. Satan knows how to attack that weakest link. We know it, but we don't know it. We brush it off. We laugh about it. I don't have patience. Sure we don't. We need to learn to get it.
Preach it, brother.
Because Satan will attack it. You see, Sarah is probably one of the greatest examples. Patience and perseverance go hand in hand. I'm going to prove it again. Hebrews chapter 10. Because I know for a long time I thought patience and endurance and all that was one thing. Well, if I got endurance, I got patience. Not necessarily. Look what Hebrews 10, verse 36, it says what? Patient endurance. Apparently it's got to be separate, right? We have endurance, but our endurance needs to be what? Patiently. Like it says that we need to wait for the Lord's return. Wait for the Lord's answer. Wait for the Lord to reveal what He needs to reveal. If we don't, what do? We react and we wonder why we struggle. We wonder why we have problems. You know, Galatians tells us, let us not become weary in doing what is good. For in the proper time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up. And you see, that's where the problem lies. We get tired of doing the right thing, and we want things to happen in Danny's time, Danny's way, and we wind up reacting, and we all falls apart. Moses, Joseph, Paul, they all endured hardship with patience, and they saw God's faithful end. Endurance, patience is necessary for the Christian walk. Challenges will come, but those who remain steadfast in faith will overcome. Patience sustains perseverance. Endurance that believes remain faithful to the end. God's purpose is often hidden, but it's always for our good. Patient and wait on it. We don't always see it. But just be patient. And in the end, it will reveal itself. I'm the kind, you have to slap me in the face with it before I see it. And God has done that too, trust me. But it's always in His timing. God's mercy is not just the outcome, it's the whole process, isn't it? So we have to wait on that. In the last days, in the future, this sermon's coming. But next week we're going to look at a sermon in the Old Testament where the Bible talks about this short phrase, but it has a great meaning. For example, if something's in the Bible, how many things that happen throughout history that's not in the Bible? So if it's in here, it needs to be what? Something important, right? That needs to be looked at. That's why we looked at this first part. Anyway, it says that in the last days, many will grow impatient. That's what it said. Many will abandon the faith. So that means you have to have it to what? Abandon it. Right. Why? Because you become impatient in your faith, waiting for God's answer, waiting for God's to reveal. We grow impatient, so we lose our faith. That's what Job wanted to. That's what Satan wanted to happen to Job. You see, and I overlook that part. I always think, well, he's just trying to be Satan, but he's breaking that weakest link. We need to realize what our weakest link is. Many will grow weary. There will be times that we will wait on the answer for the Lord. There's been many times I'm waiting like, God, what are you? But when I look back on it, if He'd have gave me what I wanted when I asked for it, I'd have messed it up. Because I wasn't ready. I see that now. And I'm still that way today. A lot of times I'll be waiting on something. Where is it at? But honestly, I would probably mess it up. I just need to be patient and wait on the Lord. Endure. Faith and endurance and patience go hand in hand. That's not one without the other. So this morning I want us to think about that as we have an opportunity to come and we can lay hands on you and we can pray for you. If you need baptism, the waters can be made ready. Or if you have anything that needs to be prayed about or anything that needs to be made known, you can come. Terry's going to give us a song.